The auction of silence. The crowd was loud, but she said nothing. Kaylee stood on the auction platform, her wrists bound by glowing cuffs. The cold metal dug into her skin, but she didn't flinch. She had learned long ago, show no pain, speak no words, ask for nothing. To the buyers, she was not a person. She was Lot 42. Nothing more. The announcer, a thick-scaled alien with greasy armor, barked out numbers in different galactic languages. Bids echoed from all sides. Slavers, miners, and criminals, all shouting, all wanting her. Kaylee's eyes stayed on the floor. Her long silver hair was dirty. Her thin clothes barely covered her small frame. The lights above the platform burned her skin, but she didn't move. Behind her stood cages. Inside them were others, frightened, shaking, silent, just like her. She had once screamed, once begged. That was months ago, before the first sale. That was before she realized no one cared, until today. In the back of the auction house, a human man leaned against a pillar. His clothes were worn, patched in places, and his boots were dusty from travel. He looked out of place among the shouting aliens. His name was Tom Riker. He had come looking for spare parts for his old farming ship. Not a slave. Not a girl. But something made him stop when he saw Kaylee. She didn't cry. She didn't even look, scared. She just stood there, eyes dull, like her soul was sleeping. Tom stepped closer as the bidding rose. Lot 42. The auctioneer growled. Strong, silent, young. He laughed darkly. Never speaks, never fights. Perfect for... Tom raised a hand. The crowd went quiet for a second. The auctioneer blinked. First-time bidder? Human? He sneered. All right, what's your offer? Everything I've got, Tom said calmly, holding up a bag of credits. It's enough. The auctioneer counted, then nodded. Sold. There was laughter. Some called him a fool. Others shook their heads. Another weak human wasting money on trash. Kaylee didn't react. She didn't even look up. Tom walked forward and pressed his palm to the release panel. Her cuffs clicked open and fell to the floor. She waited. Tom looked at her. Come on, he said quietly. Let's go. She didn't move. Tom stepped back, giving her space. I'm not going to hurt you. You can walk beside me or behind me. Your choice. Still no answer. Tom sighed. He turned and began walking. Slowly. Behind him, the crowd had already moved to the next auction. A minute passed, then another. Soft footsteps followed him. Outside the spaceport, the wind blew across rusted ships and glowing signs. Kaylee walked, 3 steps behind Tom, barefoot and silent. Tom didn't speak. He didn't try to touch her or ask questions. He just led her to his old shuttle. The door opened with a hiss. She stopped. He turned. You don't have to come in, he said gently. But it's warm inside and there's food. Kaylee hesitated, then stepped in. The shuttle was small, but clean. 1 pilot seat, 1 cot, and a small cooking unit. On the table, a plate of hot protein cubes steamed gently. Tom pointed. Eat. Kaylee looked at him, confused. He smiled. It's not poisoned, I promise. She walked to the table and sat, then stared at the food. After a long moment, she reached out slowly and picked up a cube. She sniffed it, then took a bite. Her hands trembled. Tom sat on the floor, letting her eat alone. He said nothing. She finished the plate and looked around, nervously waiting for orders, but none came. Tom stood. You can rest in the cot. I'll sleep here on the floor. You're safe. Kaylee blinked. Safe. She had never heard that word used for her. Tom lay down and closed his eyes. Good night, he said softly. She didn't move for a while. Then quietly, slowly she stepped toward the cot and sat. She didn't lie down, not yet. But her eyes stayed on Tom, watching him, testing him. He didn't move. Outside, the stars turned in silence. Inside, A girl who had been bought like a thing, tasted her first meal, and her first quiet night. And the man who had spent his last coin on her, he didn't ask for anything. The first meal she ever chose. The morning light touched the shuttle walls, soft and golden. Kaylee sat on the edge of the cot. She hadn't slept. Not really. Her eyes had closed for a few moments, but her body remained tense, like a spring ready to snap. She kept watching the human. Tom Riker lay on the floor, his hands behind his head, snoring lightly. No chains, no guards, no weapons in reach. He had made himself completely open to attack. Why? Kaylee stood slowly, bare feet quiet on the metal floor. She moved closer, close enough to touch him. He didn't wake. She reached for a nearby tool on the wall, a wrench. Her fingers stopped just before grabbing it. Something inside her whispered, "Don't." She stepped back. That's when Tom's eyes opened. "I figured you'd check," he said calmly. "It's okay. I would have done the same." Kaylee froze. Tom sat up, stretched, and gave a tired smile. "Hungry?" She nodded slightly. Tom didn't order her. He didn't point or shout. He just stood and walked to the small cooking unit. He placed a few nutrient blocks inside, added water, and waited. "I don't have much," he said, "but I always share." Kaylee watched steam rise. She remembered food being thrown on them, ground before, cold, tasteless like trash. This was different. He placed 2 plates on the table. Then he did something shocking. He stepped back. "You choose first," he said. Kaylee blinked. She had never been given a choice. She slowly walked to the table. Her hand hovered over one plate, then the other. Finally, she picked one. It smelled good. She sat and began to eat. Slowly at first, then faster. Tom chuckled. "You've got a good appetite." She looked up sharply, waiting for punishment, but Tom just smiled. "You don't have to be afraid here," he said gently. "Not with me." Her eyes dropped to the plate again. Later that day, the shuttle landed on a small moon covered in fields of green and golden dust. Kaylee looked through the window. It wasn't a city, no factories, no cages, just open space and sunlight. The door opened with a hiss. Kaylee hesitated. Tom looked at her. "This is home. Come on." She followed. They walked across a narrow metal bridge leading to a modest house built into a cliffside. It looked old but strong. A small robot shaped like a floating box zipped toward them. "Welcome back, Tom," the robot chirped. "And, oh, a guest? This is Nana," Tom said. "She runs the place, smarter than she looks." Nana beeped. "That is incorrect. I am extremely smart. Hello, guest. What's your designation?" Kaylee stayed quiet. "She doesn't talk much," Tom explained. "She might not talk at all." Nana hovered closer. "That's all right. Silence is just a different kind of language." Kaylee tilted her head. That was oddly kind for a machine. Tom showed her the small house. There was a room just for her, a bed, a soft blanket, a small screen on the wall that showed images of flowers and stars. "This is your space now," he said. "Yours alone." Kaylee stepped inside and touched the edge of the bed. It didn't feel like a prison cell. It felt safe. That night she watched from the doorway as Tom cooked again. He wasn't a good cook. He dropped a pot, burned something, and cursed softly. But he laughed at himself, like it was okay to mess up. He handed her another plate. This time she didn't wait. She took it, nodded slightly, and sat with him. They ate in silence. After the meal, Tom pointed at the stars outside. "See that one?" he said. "That's Earth, my home." Kaylee followed his finger. A tiny blue dot sparkled in the black sky. Tom looked at her. "Where's your home?" She said nothing, but her hand touched her chest, then dropped slowly. He understood. Gone? She nodded once. He didn't ask more. He just said, "Well, you're here now. You don't have to run anymore." Later, as she sat alone in her room, Kaylee stared at her empty plate. She had picked her meal, sat at the same table as a human, slept in a real bed. No one shouted, no one hit her. She hadn't needed to lie or steal, and for the first time in her life, she had chosen something for herself. It was only food. But to Kaylee, it meant more. It meant maybe she could be more than what they made her. Maybe she was not just Lot 42. Maybe she was Kaylee again, learning the meaning of safe. For the first time in her life, Kaylee slept and dreamed. Not nightmares, not cages, not shouting voices or metal cuffs, but soft wind, warm light, the smell of real food. She opened her eyes to the sound of birds outside. Not machines, birds. She sat up slowly. The room was still quiet. The blanket had stayed on her through the night. No one pulled it away. No one kicked her from the floor. She wasn't locked in. She looked around, still free. Tom was already outside in the field, working with some kind of solar panel. The soft hum of machines buzzed in the background. Nana floated beside him, reading measurements out loud. Kaylee didn't know what to do. In the places she'd been before, silence was dangerous. If you didn't move fast, you got hurt. If you didn't speak when told, they punished you. But Tom hadn't told her anything. He hadn't even asked her name. She stepped outside. Her bare feet touched real grass, not metal, not concrete. Real, green grass that bent under her steps. Tom looked up and waved. "Morning." She gave a small nod. "You hungry?" She nodded again. He pointed toward the house. "Go ahead." Nana left food inside. She stared at him. Was it a test? Was she allowed to go inside by herself? He smiled. "You can eat when you want. You don't need permission, Kaylee." Her eyes widened. He had said her name. She never told him. Tom saw her face. "Your ID tag was on the auction file," he said. "Didn't seem right to keep calling you Lot 42. Kaylee blinked. Something strange and warm grew in her chest. She went back inside and found a small plate on the table. Fruit, bread, water, all fresh, all untouched. No chains nearby. She ate slowly, but her hands didn't shake this time. When she finished, she walked to the door and paused. There was no lock, no command. She stepped out again. Tom was still working, but he didn't notice her at first. His hands were covered in dust and his tools lay open beside him. Kaylee stood nearby, watching. He looked up. "Want to help?" She froze. He laughed. "It's okay. You don't have to. I'm used to fixing things alone." She knelt beside him slowly. He handed her a screwdriver. "This one turns left to loosen. Want to try?" She took it carefully. He watched her twist the handle. The screw turned. Tom gave a small cheer. "Nice." Her lips twitched, almost a smile. Hours passed like this. Quiet work. No shouting. No pushing. Just doing something useful. When the sun began to dip, Kaylee sat under a tree while Tom washed up. Nana floated over and offered a soft blanket. Kaylee took it and whispered, "Thank you." The little robot beeped in surprise. "First words detected, hello." Kaylee looked shocked. She covered her mouth, afraid she had broken some rule. But Nana spun in a little happy circle. "I am honored to receive your voice." From a distance, Tom saw the moment. He smiled. That night they all sat around a fire pit, stars above, warm, tea in their hands. The fire crackled between them. Kaylee sat close to the flame, soaking in the warmth. She didn't speak again, but she didn't need to. Tom told a simple story about Earth, about trees that turned orange in the fall, about snow, about rivers. Kaylee listened closely. She had never seen snow, Never seen a tree until this place. She looked at Tom. Not like a buyer, not like an owner, but something else. Something new. Later, as she walked back to her room, she stopped by the small mirror on the wall. She looked at herself. Her hair was cleaner now. Her skin looked less pale. There was life in her eyes again. Not much, but enough to notice. She touched the side of her face, then whispered again, "Kaylee." She was saying her own name. She belonged to herself now. That night she didn't sleep with one eye open. She didn't grip a hidden fork under her pillow. She didn't curl into a ball in the corner. She lay under the blanket, arms stretched wide, eyes closed fully. And when she finally drifted into sleep again, her dreams were not of cages or chains. They were of soft grass and kind voices and warm firelight. Maybe this is what safe felt like. Maybe she could learn to stay. The night. She cried for a stranger. The wind howled outside the farmhouse. Tom stood at the fence, checking a power cable, when he heard it, a soft cry. Weak. Barely there. He turned his head. Another whimper, high and shaky like a scared animal. It was coming from the forest near the edge of his property. He dropped his tools and ran toward the sound. Kaylee, inside, watched him through the window. When she saw him disappear into the trees, she followed without thinking. Tom crouched near a bush, pushing aside leaves. That's when he saw the child. Alien. Tiny. Thin arms hugging its knees. Its skin was pale blue and its eyes were too big for its face. The child looked up at Tom and growled weakly. "I'm not here to hurt you," Tom said softly. Behind him, Kaylee stepped out of the shadows. The child saw her and froze. She gasped. The child's face, its markings, its eyes, it reminded her of home. Her people. A lost one. A survivor. Kaylee stepped forward slowly, arms low, showing her palms. The child stared at her, then collapsed. They carried the child into the house. Nana scanned him. Dehydrated, malnourished, mild fever. Kaylee brought water and soaked a cloth. Tom started cooking. No one spoke much, but the house filled with movement, with purpose. Kaylee sat beside the child, gently wiping his forehead. His skin was cold, his breathing shallow. Tom placed a bowl of soup near them. He needs this. Kaylee took the spoon and began feeding him, bit by bit. Carefully. The child's eyes fluttered open. He looked at her and whispered, in her native language, "Safe?" She froze, then nodded. His tiny fingers clutched hers, and Kaylee's throat tightened. Later that night, the child slept in her room. Nana monitored him with gentle hums. Kaylee stood outside, staring at the stars. Tom joined her, a cup of tea in his hands. "You did good," he said. She didn't answer. Instead, she whispered, "He's just a child." Tom nodded. "Yeah." Her voice was trembling now. "They would have killed him, or sold him, just like they sold me." Tom looked at her. "But you saved him." She covered her face and cried. For the first time she cried, not for herself, but for someone else. For a little boy she didn't know, for the child she used to be, for the memories she couldn't erase. Tom didn't speak. He didn't hug her or try to fix it. He just stood beside her, letting her cry, letting her feel, letting her be. In the morning, the child was stronger. He sat up and drank water on his own. He looked at Kaylee, confused. "Where is this?" She knelt beside him. "It's a place where no one will hurt you." He blinked. "Is that real?" She smiled softly. "It's real here." Tom entered, with a tray of food. "Breakfast. Hope you like bland soup." The child smiled. His teeth were small and sharp. "I like soup." Tom laughed. "Then we'll get along." Later that day, Tom made a small bed for the boy in the corner of Kaylee's room. "You two are a team now," he said. Kaylee looked at him. What if someone comes for him? Tom's face grew serious. Then we'll protect him like we protected you. She looked down. Why? He tilted his head. Because no one should be alone, especially not kids. Kaylee whispered. Not even broken ones? Tom touched her shoulder gently. You're not broken, you were hurt, there's a difference. Her eyes shimmered. And for the first time, she believed it. That night, Kaylee sat beside the boy as he fell asleep. She brushed a strand of hair from his face. She didn't know where he came from. She didn't know his name. But she knew what he needed. He needed peace. He needed a chance. He needed what she had been given, and now, she could give it to him. The girl who once cried in cages was now the one offering comfort. Maybe this is what family meant. Not blood, but choice. The ones who want her back, it started with a sound. A strange clicking noise from above the clouds. Then silence. Kaylee paused while tending the garden behind the farmhouse. The alien child, now stronger, was chasing butterflies nearby. But Kaylee's back stiffened. Her hands gripped the small trowel tighter. That sound, she remembered it. It was the sound of the ships that had taken her. Her breath caught. Then she saw it. A black drone drifting high above the trees, its red eye blinking. Watching. Scanning. Her heart froze. Inside the house, Nana let out a sharp alert. Unregistered surveillance drone detected. Model, Cravex Market Authority. Tom dropped the wrench in his hand. Cravex? Kaylee rushed in, pulling the child close behind her. Nana hovered down. This model matches the slave auction security patrols. Someone is looking for something. Or someone. Tom looked at Kaylee. It's you, isn't it? Kaylee nodded slowly. Her hands shook. I thought I was free, she whispered. Tom's jaw tightened. You are, but they think otherwise. By nightfall, the sky wasn't quiet anymore. 2 ships hovered in low orbit. Not government, not patrol, slaver ships. One message was broadcast. Repeatedly, return property lot 42 or face immediate extraction. Kaylee's blood turned cold. The number. That cursed number again. Tom turned off the message, anger rising in his voice. They think you're property. They think they can just take you back like stolen metal. Kaylee didn't speak. She sat beside the sleeping child and placed a hand on his chest. She could hear his slow, steady breaths. I won't let them. Take him, she said quietly. Tom knelt down. They won't. Not him, not you. She looked at him. You don't understand. They'll come. They'll burn this place. They don't care who gets hurt. Tom stood. His eyes were steady. Calm. Then let them come. The next morning, Kaylee woke to the sound of hammering. Tom was reinforcing the house. Solar panels were repositioned into shields. Defense turrets powered up from the old generator. Nana activated security drones, 5 of them, floating silently with red sensors glowing. Kaylee walked outside. Tom handed her a small device. Emergency beacon. You press it and you're gone. Transporters will take you and the boy to the next safe zone I set up. She stared at it. He said softly, I want you to live, Kaylee. She looked at him, then slowly handed the device back. No, she said. I'm done running. That evening they came. 2 slaver guards stepped onto the property in armored boots. One was reptilian with long claws. The other was a thin, pale creature with eyes like knives. They saw Tom and laughed. A human farmer? Really? She's hiding behind this? Kaylee stepped forward. The guards blinked. She had changed. No longer a trembling thing in chains. She wore simple clothes. Her hair was tied back, her eyes were steady. I'm not yours anymore, she said calmly. One of the guards grinned. Doesn't matter what you say, the contract is still valid. Tom stepped in front of her. She's family now. The guards looked at each other, then burst out laughing. She's not even your species. She doesn't have a family. Tom's voice dropped low. She does now. and then he punched the reptilian one across the face. The fight wasn't pretty. Tom got hit. Hard, but he didn't back down. Kaylee grabbed a broken pipe and swung with all her strength. For the first time, she didn't freeze in fear. She fought. For someone. For herself. For the boy still sleeping inside. Nana activated the drones, and together they forced the guards off the land. But not before one of them shouted, "We'll be back. You can't hide forever." After it was over, Tom wiped blood from his lip. Well, that went well. Kaylee sat beside him on the porch. "You got punched 5 times. He grinned. "Still standing." Kaylee looked down at her scraped hands. Then up at the stars. "They're not finished." Tom looked at her, then at the boy peeking from the doorway, wide-eyed and scared. "No," he said, "but neither are we." Kaylee said nothing for a moment, then whispered, "You called me family." Tom turned to her. "Because you are." Tears filled her eyes, but this time, they weren't from fear. They were from something new, belonging, the price of belonging. The stars above looked peaceful, but Kaylee knew warships were hiding among them, waiting, watching. She stood on the roof of the farmhouse, holding a scanner in her hands. The slaver signal was back. Stronger now. Multiple frequencies. They were serious this time. They wanted her, and they didn't care who burned in the process. Tom patched his bruises with med gel, one arm in a sling, but his voice was calm. "They're not going to stop, Kaylee. Not until they think they've scared us enough to give up." Kaylee stared out the window. "They don't want to scare. They want to own." Tom nodded. "Then we show them we don't belong to anyone." She didn't answer. Her hand brushed the emergency beacon again, the same device Tom had given her earlier. She had refused to run. But now, someone else was at risk too. The boy. He peeked around the corner, clutching a toy Tom had carved from wood. His small eyes were wide. "Are they coming again?" he asked. Kaylee knelt beside him and pulled him into a hug. "Yes," she whispered, "but not for you. For me." That night she didn't sleep. She sat at the table alone, staring at her own reflection in the dark window. Lot 42. That name still lived in the mouths of monsters. But here, she had become Kaylee again. A person, a sister, a protector, maybe even a daughter. But all of that was at risk now. She could run again, and they'd leave Tom alone. She could hide. Let him rebuild. Let the boy grow up safe. But deep down, she knew what would happen if she left. They'd never stop. Not until she was in chains again. By morning, she had made her choice. Tom stepped outside and found her in the field, digging. Not hiding. Not packing. Digging. He frowned. "What are you doing?" She held up a long metal pole and smiled softly. "Building something." She pressed the base into the ground and opened a control box. It was a signal disruptor. High-powered. Illegal in most systems. "Where did you even get that?" Tom asked, shocked. Kaylee looked at him. "When you live in chains, you learn to notice where keys are kept." He grinned. "Remind me not to make you mad." That afternoon, the sky darkened. 2 massive ships descended low enough to stir the trees. Dust blew across the field. Birds fled. The ground trembled. A booming voice came from the speaker. "Surrender the girl. Final warning." Tom looked at Kaylee. "Still time to run." She shook her head. "Still time to fight." The first dropships landed at the edge of the farm. 5 armored guards stepped out. Blasters ready. Kaylee stood in front of the house, alone. The boy peeked through the window. Nana locked him inside, shields raised around him. Tom loaded a rifle, old and rusty but still charged. The guards marched forward. "You belong to us," one of them hissed. "Your contract was never canceled." Kaylee's voice was cold, clear. "I'm not a contract, I'm a person." Another guard raised his weapon. "You want to die here then? Fine by us." Tom stepped beside her. "She's not dying today. The Moment froze. Then Kaylee pressed a small switch. The disruptor fired. Every slaver communicator exploded in a burst of static. Their weapons jammed. Their ships lost signal. Kaylee moved fast, grabbing Tom's spare shock baton and striking the first. One hard. Tom tackled the second. Nana sent drones to blind the rest with flash bursts. They didn't kill anyone, but they made sure no one walked away proud. Within minutes, the slavers ran back to their ship, limping, panicked, angry. They left behind their weapons and their pride. That evening, after the storm settled, Kaylee stood in the field watching the smoke fade in the sky. Tom walked up beside her. "You did it," he said. "You made them run." Kaylee didn't speak. She was staring at the horizon, lost in thought. "I was scared," she said finally. "Not of them. Of losing this. You. Him. This. Home." Tom looked at her. "You protected it, Kaylee. That's what family does." She turned toward him. "I never knew the price of belonging." Tom tilted his head. "What is it?" She smiled softly. "Bravery. The word." She finally said. The house was quiet again. No ships in the sky. No red eyes watching. No threats crackling from speakers. Just the wind in the fields and the soft hum of peace. Kaylee sat on the front steps, her knees drawn close, watching the sunrise. For once, she wasn't checking the sky for danger. She was watching it for beauty. Inside, the boy laughed as Nana spun around, making silly noises. Tom sat at the table, carving a new wooden animal. It was rough, crooked, and, missing one leg, he held it up proudly. "It's a space goat," Kaylee chuckled from the door. "Looks like a chair that gave up," she said. Tom grinned. Rude. It had been 3 days since the slavers ran. 3 days of silence, safety, and something Kaylee never believed she'd feel. Stillness. That afternoon, she walked alone through the small local market on the nearby moon station. No cuffs on her wrists, no eyes tracking her movements. Just people. Living, buying, laughing, trading. She picked out a small red scarf, soft, simple. Nothing fancy, but it reminded her of warmth. She used her own credits, earned from helping Tom harvest solar fruits for trade. The seller smiled at her. "Nice choice, miss. Miss. Not lot 42, not girl, not property." She returned home with the scarf wrapped carefully in a cloth. That evening, Kaylee found Tom sitting by the fire pit outside watching the sky. His eyes were heavy, his hands dusty. She walked over, quiet. He didn't notice her at first. She placed the small wrapped bundle in his lap. He looked down. "What's this?" "Open it." He did. The scarf fell into his hands. Red, soft, folded with care. "I saw it," she said. "Thought it might suit your neck. It's cold now at night." Tom touched it like it was made of gold. "You bought this?" She nodded. "With your credits?" She nodded again. He smiled. "Thank you." Kaylee stared at the fire for a long moment, then said something, a single word, quiet, small, but clear. "Dad." Tom froze. She kept her eyes on the fire. "You didn't ask for it, I know, but that's what you are." He didn't speak, just looked down at the scarf in his hands. Then he gently placed it around his neck and nodded. "I was never planning to be one," he said softly, "but I'm glad you chose me." Later that night, Kaylee tucked the boy into bed. He was already dozing off. She kissed his forehead. "Good night, little brother," she whispered. He smiled in his sleep. Outside, the stars blinked gently. Kaylee stood at the doorway, arms folded, eyes lifted. She was not a number anymore, not a slave, not a ghost. She was Kaylee, daughter, sister, family, and no one would take that from her again.